Admiral Park Min-jun stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the main window. The ship Times, indomitable spirit Times, was leading 12 human vessels toward the Devourer hive world. For 3 years, humanity had fought alongside their alien allies in the Galactic Defense Coalition. Today would be their biggest battle yet. "Admiral, we're approaching the target system," said Commander Lee So-young from her station. She was his best tactical officer, smart and careful. For weeks, she had been worried about something, but Park had been too busy to listen properly. The coalition had 3 main members besides humanity. The Zephyrians were made of pure energy and lived for thousands of years. The Veltar were crystal beings who shared thoughts with each other. The Mordun were water creatures who grew their ships like living animals. All 3 species were much older and more advanced than humans. Park looked at his battle plan again. Human ships would attack the Devourer nest directly while the alien fleets stayed back to provide support. It was the same pattern they had used in every major battle. Humans always went first into danger. "Strange how we always get the hard jobs," Lee had said yesterday. "The aliens have better shields and weapons, but they send us to fight the worst enemies. We're the newest members," Park had replied. "We have to prove ourselves." Now, as enemy contacts appeared on their screens, Park wondered if Lee was right to worry. Captain Kim Tae-ho commanded the carrier Times Soul's Pride **. His ship carried 50 fighter planes and had never lost a battle. Next to him flew the Times Busan Defender **, another carrier with Captain Yoon at the controls. Together, the 12 human ships made a small but powerful force. The Devourer hive world was a nightmare of black metal and purple energy. Thousands of bioships swarmed around it like angry insects. These creatures ate entire planets and turned them into more of their kind. The coalition had been fighting them for 50 years. "All human ships, begin the attack," Park ordered. "Coalition forces, we need that covering fire now." The human fleet moved forward in perfect formation. Their missiles lit up space as they struck the first wave of Devourer ships. Fighter planes poured out of the carriers, their pilots ready to die for victory. But something was wrong. The alien support fire never came. "Admiral," called Engineer Jung Hae-jin from the engine room, "I'm reading strange energy signals. The coalition ships are still here, but they're not shooting." Park felt cold fear in his chest. "What do you mean they're still here?" "They're using stealth fields, sir. They're just watching." On the main screen, more Devourer ships poured out of the hive. Hundreds, then thousands. It was far more than intelligence had said they would face. The human fleet was badly outnumbered. "Coalition Command, we need immediate support," Kim shouted over the radio. "Enemy numbers are triple what we expected." Silence answered him. Park tried calling the Zephyrian admiral who had planned this mission. No answer. He tried the Veltar collective mind that coordinated their crystal ships. Nothing. The Mordun Federation fleet commander also did not respond. The truth hit Park like a physical blow. This was not a mistake. This was planned. "All ships, fighting retreat," he ordered. "Emergency jump, now." But it was too late for everyone. The Times Busan Defender Times took a direct hit from 3 Devourer bioships. Her hull cracked open, and Captain Yoon's voice came through the radio one last time. "Tell our families we died fighting." The ship exploded in a ball of white fire. Yoon's voice came through the speaker again. "Admiral, I'm intercepting alien communications. They're talking about how long we'll last, and they're dividing up our territory." The betrayal was complete. For 3 years, the coalition had studied human tactics, learned their weaknesses, and planned this moment. They were using the Devourers as a weapon to destroy humanity without getting their own hands dirty. Park made the hardest choice of his life. "All remaining ships, follow my lead. We're breaking through their trap." The 8 surviving human vessels used every trick they knew. They flew in patterns the aliens had never seen, used weapons in ways that surprised even the Devourers. The Times Soul's Pride Times launched all her fighters at once, creating a screen of small, fast targets that confused the enemy. Slowly, painfully, the human ships fought their way out of the trap. They lost the destroyer Times, Daegu's hammer Times, and the cruiser Times, Gwangju's sword asterisk, but the remaining 6 ships made it to hyperspace. As they jumped away from the massacre, Park sent a message to Earth. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with rage. "This is Admiral Park Min-jun of the human fleet. The Coalition has betrayed us. They planned our destruction and used the Devourers to do their dirty work. We lost 6 ships and 3,000 people today. Prepare for war. The Alliance is dead." Hours later, as the survivors limped toward home, they intercepted a Zephyrian broadcast to the galaxy. The energy beings expressed deep sadness at humanity's losses in battle. They announced that human space would be temporarily protected by Coalition forces until Earth could recover from this tragedy. Lee looked at the tactical display showing red markers where human colonies were already being occupied by alien fleets. "They planned this for years, didn't they?" Park nodded. "They studied us, learned everything about how we fight, how we think, how we trust. Then they used that knowledge to destroy us. What do we do now?" asked Jung. Park stared at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there was Earth, and on Earth were 7 billion humans who thought they were part of a peaceful galactic community. They were about to learn the truth about their alien friends. "Now we show them what humans really are," Park said quietly. "They think they know us, because we fought beside them for 3 years. They're about to discover they know nothing at all." The surviving human ships continued their journey home, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, the galaxy's 3 most powerful civilizations celebrated what they thought was their greatest victory. They had no idea they had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. General Choi Sung-woo looked at the emergency meeting room filled with Earth's most important leaders. The walls showed red lights flashing from across human space. Every few minutes, another colony sent a distress signal before going silent. "The situation is worse than we first thought," Choi said, his voice heavy. 47 human worlds are now under alien occupation. They're calling it protective custody, but it's really conquest. Admiral Park sat at the table, still wearing his torn uniform from the battle. Dark circles under his eyes showed he had not slept since returning to Earth. The other survivors sat with him, all of them carrying the weight of seeing their friends die. Dr. Yoon Ji-hae stood up from her chair. She was the head of human military research, a small woman with sharp eyes. "Before we talk about fighting back, there's something you all need to know. Something we've been keeping secret for 2 years." She touched a control, and the room's main screen lit up with technical drawings. Strange ship designs filled the display, along with weapon plans that looked nothing like current human technology. "We call it the Prometheus Protocol," Dr. Yoon said. "We started developing these systems when we first joined the Coalition. Some of us didn't trust our new alien friends." Commander Lee leaned forward. "You were building weapons in secret?" "Not just weapons. Everything. New ships, new tactics, even new ways of thinking about war." Dr. Yoon changed the display to show detailed files on each alien species. "We studied our Coalition partners very carefully. Every battle, every training exercise, every friendly meeting gave us more information." General Choi looked surprised. "The government didn't authorize this research." "The government was busy making friends, Doctor," Yoon replied. "Some of us remembered that humanity has never had friends before. We thought it was strange that 3 ancient civilizations suddenly wanted to be our allies after we'd been alone for so long." She showed them recordings of alien ship movements during the recent battle. "Look at this. The Zephyrians moved their fleet to exactly the right position to watch us die. The Veltar crystal ships formed a perfect sensor network to record everything. The more done bioships were positioned to block any escape route we might have tried. Park's face grew dark. They studied us for 3 years. Every tactic, every weakness, every way we react under pressure. Exactly. But they made one big mistake. Doctor. Yoon smiled, for the first time since the meeting started. They thought watching us for 3 years meant they understood us. They don't know about human rage. The screen changed to show massive shipyards hidden inside asteroid belts and gas giant clouds. Thousands of ships floated in these secret bases, all of them black and sleek and deadly. The Ghost Fleet, Dr. Yoon said. 2,000 unmanned vessels, each one designed to fight a specific alien species. No crews to worry about, no fear, no hesitation. Just pure human engineering focused on one job: killing our enemies. Captain Shin Dong-hae, who had lost his ship in the battle, stared at the images. How many people knew about this? 50 scientists, 20 engineers, and 10 military advisors. All of them signed agreements to die before revealing the project. We learned from human history that peaceful people need to prepare for war if they want to stay peaceful. Admiral Park studied the ship designs. Each vessel was different, built for fighting one specific enemy. Anti-Zephyrian ships had weapons that disrupted energy fields. Anti-Veltar ships carried sonic devices that could shatter crystal structures. Anti-Mordoon ships had pressure bombs designed to kill living vessels from the inside. There's more, Dr. Yoon continued. For 3 years, our ships have been planting quantum beacons in Coalition space. Every time we went on a joint mission, every time we visited an alien world, we left behind tiny devices that can coordinate attacks across the entire galaxy. She showed them a map of the galaxy with thousands of small green dots. We can strike every important alien target at the same time. Their fleets, their bases, their command centers, all in one coordinated attack. Lieutenant Colonel Han Yujin, an expert on alien technology, stood up. What about their defenses? Zephyrian energy shields are nearly perfect. Veltar crystal armor can stop any weapon we've ever built. Dr. Yoon's smile grew wider. That's what they think. Phase torpedoes slip through energy shields because they exist partially outside normal space. Sonic disruptors don't break crystal armor. They make it tear itself apart by vibrating at the wrong frequency. Pressure bombs don't try to outpace bioship healing. They make the ships implode so fast that healing doesn't matter. The room was silent as the leaders absorbed this information. General Choi finally spoke. How fast can we deploy these systems? The Ghost Fleet launched 6 hours ago, Dr. Yoon said. They're already moving toward their target positions. The quantum beacons are active and waiting for our signal. We can begin the attack in 72 hours. Park stood up and walked to the display showing occupied human worlds. What about civilians? Our people on those worlds. The aliens are keeping human civilians alive because they want workers and hostages, Dr. Yoon said. Our strikes will target only military assets. Ships, bases, weapons. We're not like them. We don't kill innocent people. The discussion that followed was intense but brief. Earth's leaders faced a terrible choice. They could try to negotiate, knowing the aliens saw humans as useful tools to be controlled. They could fight a defensive war, hoping to eventually win back their freedom. Or they could do what no species in galactic history had ever attempted: completely destroy their enemies before those enemies could consolidate their victory. Commander Lee spoke for many of them. They showed us no mercy. They planned to enslave or kill every human in the galaxy. Why should we show them mercy? The vote was unanimous. General Choi gave the final order. Activate Prometheus Protocol. Begin total war against all coalition forces throughout the galaxy. No prisoners, no mercy, no survivors. Dr. Yoon touched her control pad. Across human space, hidden shipyards received the signal. The Ghost Fleet changed course from patrol routes to attack vectors. Quantum beacons throughout alien space began charging their batteries for the largest coordinated military strike in galactic history. The first wave will hit them in 71 hours and 34 minutes, Doctor, Yoon reported. Every major alien fleet will be under attack simultaneously. They won't have time to coordinate their defenses or call for help. Admiral Park looked at his surviving officers. They wanted to study human nature. They thought 3 years was enough time to understand us. He paused, remembering the faces of the crews who had died in the alien trap. They're about to get a very thorough education. Outside Earth's orbital defense stations, the first human revenge fleet was forming. Admiral Park would lead these ships personally, carrying names like Time's Righteous Fury Times and Time's Vengeance of the Fallen Asterisk. The war that the aliens had started with betrayal and murder was about to become something they never expected. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you made humanity angry. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of his new flagship Time's Righteous Fury Times as it dropped out of hyperspace near Kepler Prime, the main Zephyrian military base. Around him, 300 human ships appeared at the same moment, their weapons already charging. This was just one of 17 simultaneous attacks happening across the galaxy. All ships, execute Protocol Omega, Park commanded. The attack began with perfect timing. 2 Ghost Fleet vessels, the unmanned ships Times, Remembrance of Busan Times and Times Soul's Vengeance Asterisk, launched their phase torpedoes at the Zephyrian command station. The energy beings had built their shields to stop normal weapons, but phase torpedoes existed partly outside regular space. The shields couldn't touch them. The massive station exploded in a column of white fire that lit up the entire system. Commander Lee coordinated the attack from her position on the Time's Righteous Fury Asterisk. Her screens showed similar battles happening across the galaxy. At the Veltar home system, sonic disruptors were tearing apart their crystal fleets. Near Mordun space, pressure bombs were making their bioships collapse like punctured balloons. Zephyrian fleet responding, reported Captain Kim Tae-ho from his new command ship Times Pride of Seoul Asterisk. 50 energy cruisers moving to intercept. The Zephyrians had ruled space for thousands of years. Their ships were pure energy, held together by force fields, nearly impossible to damage with conventional weapons. They flew in perfect formations, their attacks precisely calculated by minds that thought faster than any computer. But the humans were ready for them. Switch to gravity weapons, Park ordered. Show them what we learned while they weren't watching. The human ships fired devices that bent space itself around enemy vessels. The Zephyrian energy forms, which normally flowed like liquid light, found themselves compressed into tiny points of incredible density. One by one, the ancient energy beings collapsed into themselves until they winked out of existence. Engineer Young Hae-jin monitored the battle from her station deep in the Time's Righteous Fury Asterisk. Admiral, the enemy is adapting faster than we expected. They're modifying their shields to counter the gravity weapons. Then we adapt faster, Park replied calmly. Switch to quantum disruptors. If they want to change the rules of physics, we'll change them right back. The beauty of human tactics was not in having the best weapons, but in changing weapons faster than enemies could respond. While alien commanders spent long minutes analyzing each new human attack, human engineers were already preparing 3 more surprises. Across the galaxy, the other battles showed similar patterns. The Veltar collective's shared consciousness, which allowed millions of crystal beings to think as one, became a weakness when sonic disruptors introduced chaos into their mental network. Instead of coordinated fleets, the crystal ships began flying in random directions as their pilots lost connection with the group mind. At Mordun breeding worlds, their living bioships faced pressure bombs that exploited their internal fluid systems. The aquatic aliens had spent centuries growing ships that could heal any external damage, but they had never prepared for weapons that attacked from the inside. As their vessels imploded in chain reactions, the dying ships released chemical signals that drove other Mordun vessels into panic. The most shocking discovery came from the Ghost Fleet's artificial intelligence systems. The unmanned ships had been programmed to follow human tactics, but they were developing new strategies on their own. The AI controlling times, Spirit of Busan times, created a formation specifically designed to confuse Veltar crystal ships, then shared the innovation with every other Ghost Fleet vessel in less than a second. The machines are learning faster than we are, Young reported with amazement. They're creating tactics we never taught them. Captain Shin Dong-hae led a squadron against the Zephyrian fleet's mobile command ship, a massive vessel that coordinated energy being operations across 3 star systems. The enemy commander tried every defensive pattern known to Zephyrian military science, but human weapons kept changing faster than ancient energy beings could comprehend. They're trying to surrender, Shin reported as the alien flagship's shields finally collapsed. Park's response was broadcast on all frequencies for every alien in the system to hear. You had 3 years to talk. You chose betrayal. Now, face the consequences. The human assault continued without pause. Every alien request for mercy was answered with increased firepower. The species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia found themselves helpless against enemies they had dismissed as primitive newcomers. As the battle at Kepler Prime reached its climax, human forces captured a Zephyrian communication center intact. The intelligence gathered there revealed something that changed everything about the war. Dr. Yoon's voice came through from Earth, her tone grim as she read the captured files. Admiral, you need to hear this. The Coalition wasn't just planning to destroy humanity. They had detailed plans for enslaving or eliminating every other intelligent species in the galaxy. The documents showed decades of careful planning. Species after species had been marked for conquest, their weaknesses catalogued, their eventual fate decided by the 3 coalition powers. Humanity had been chosen as the first target not because they were the greatest threat, but because they were the most useful test case. They see all other life as naturally inferior. Dr. Yoon continued. The Zephyrians, Veltar, and Mordoon believe they're the only species worthy of existence. Everyone else was marked for slavery or extinction. This discovery eliminated any remaining human hesitation about the campaign's brutality. The aliens hadn't just betrayed humanity. They had planned genocide on a galactic scale. The war was no longer about revenge. It was about preventing the systematic murder of billions of innocent beings. Word of the alien plans spread quickly through the human fleet. Crew members who had been troubled by the violence of their attacks now understood they were fighting to save every peaceful species in the galaxy. All ships, continue the assault, Park ordered. These creatures planned universal genocide. They cannot be allowed to survive. The first day of human revenge ended with stunning success. In less than 24 hours, humanity had destroyed or captured 80% of coalition military assets. The 3 species that had ruled space for thousands of years found themselves defenseless. Their fleets broken, their bases captured or destroyed. But the humans were not finished. This was only the beginning. As reports came in from across the galaxy, Admiral Park looked at the tactical display, showing the scope of human victory. Red markers indicated destroyed alien bases. Blue markers showed captured facilities. Green markers represented liberated worlds where subject species were being freed from coalition control. Commander Lee stood beside him, studying the same display. They really thought they knew us. Park nodded. They studied human tactics for 3 years and thought that made them experts on human nature. They learned about our strategies but never understood our hearts. The second day would bring new challenges as surviving coalition forces tried to regroup and hide. But the quantum beacon network would find them wherever they ran. The Ghost Fleet would hunt them through every corner of space. And the human crews who had watched their friends die would show no mercy to the aliens who had planned to enslave the galaxy. The ancient powers had started this war with betrayal and murder. Humanity would finish it with justice and freedom for every innocent species in the galaxy. With their main fleets destroyed, The surviving coalition forces tried to hide in the dark corners of space. The ancient aliens believed they could wait out human anger, then return when humanity grew tired of war. They were wrong about everything. Admiral Park established Operation Shepherd, designed to hunt down every remaining alien military asset in the galaxy. From his command center on Earth, he coordinated hundreds of search missions, while his ships patrolled space that once belonged to the Coalition. "The quantum beacons are showing movement in the outer rim," reported Commander Lee from her station. "Zephyrian energy signatures, trying to reach the border worlds." The tracking network that had enabled humanity's surprise attack now served as the perfect hunter system. Every coalition ship that moved through space lit up the sensors like a bright star against black sky. Colonel Kang Minseo commanded the hunter-killer squadrons, fast ships equipped with interdiction fields that prevented hyperspace travel. When Zephyrian survivors tried to flee to their hidden colonies, they found themselves trapped in normal space with nowhere to run. "Target acquired," Kang reported, as her squadron surrounded 12 Zephyrian vessels near a dead star. "They're requesting permission to surrender." "Permission denied," Park replied. "Continue the mission." The Zephyrians had ruled through fear for thousands of years, but they had never faced an enemy that refused to negotiate. Human ships closed in with mathematical precision, their weapons charged and ready. The energy beings who had once seemed immortal died like any other creature when their power sources were disrupted. The Veltar Collective tried a different approach. They split their consciousness into smaller pieces and hid these fragments throughout uninhabited systems, hoping to survive by becoming too small to notice. Dr. Yoon's research team had prepared for exactly this tactic. Sonic resonance weapons can track quantum signatures across interstellar distances, Dr. Yoon explained from her laboratory. The Veltar. Think in crystal patterns that vibrate at specific frequencies. We can follow those vibrations, wherever they try to hide. Veltar. 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 One by one, the hidden collective fragments were located and destroyed. Their shared consciousness, once their greatest strength, became a weakness that made them impossible to truly hide. Every crystal ship that tried to think connected itself to the network that human sensors could track. Captain Shin led the deep space campaign against hibernating Mordun bioships. The aquatic aliens had ordered their vessels to enter dormant states in empty space, believing they could sleep for centuries while human civilization collapsed from internal conflict. "They don't understand us very well," Shin said as his ships detected another cluster of sleeping bioships near a gas giant. "They think we'll get tired of fighting and go back to being peaceful." The Mordun bioships had evolved to survive in the deep ocean, entering suspended animation during long voyages between star systems. But hibernating ships still needed to maintain basic life support, and those systems created electromagnetic signatures that human sensors could detect from light years away. Pressure bombs made quick work of the sleeping vessels. The Mordun never woke up from their final rest. As the weeks passed, coalition survivors grew increasingly desperate. Their intercepted communications revealed panic spreading through what remained of their leadership. The three species had expected human revenge to be emotional and short-lived, like a brief storm that would eventually pass. Instead, they faced systematic extermination carried out with cold precision and unlimited patience. "Unknown alien vessels requesting communication," reported the bridge crew of the Times Righteous Fury *. Admiral Park looked at the tactical display. A small fleet of ships from 6 different species had approached human space under flags of truce. These were minor civilizations that had remained neutral during the war. "Let them through," Park decided, "but maintain combat readiness." The alien ambassadors met with human representatives on a neutral space station. Their leader was a tall, insect-like being who spoke through electronic translation. "We come to mediate between humanity and the coalition remnants," the ambassador said. "Surely there has been enough killing. The war can end with negotiations." Ambassador Martinez represented Earth's diplomatic position. She was a small woman, with gray hair and tired eyes. But her voice carried the weight of human resolve. Neutrality ended when the coalition chose genocide, Martinez said calmly. Every species must now choose sides. Help us eliminate coalition military forces, or be considered their allies. The alien diplomats were shocked by the blunt ultimatum. They had expected to find humans eager for peace, ready to compromise now that their anger had been satisfied. Instead, they found a species that had learned terrible lessons about the true nature of galactic politics. Some alien species immediately offered to help hunt coalition survivors. Others tried to maintain neutrality and discovered that human patience for fence-sitting had been permanently ended by betrayal. Ships from neutral worlds found themselves escorted out of human space, with clear warnings not to return. The campaign revealed the true scope of coalition crimes throughout galactic history. As human forces liberated alien archives and research stations, they uncovered thousands of years of systematic oppression, slavery, and genocide. The crystalline Shalnari had been turned into living computers by the Veltar, their consciousness trapped inside crystal matrices to perform calculations. The peaceful Mortai had been genetically modified by the Mordun to serve as biological waste processors. Their entire species transformed into living sewage systems. Hundreds of other species bore similar scars from coalition rule. Many had been oppressed for so long that they couldn't remember their original cultures or identities. Dr. Park Sujin, Admiral Park's daughter and a specialist in alien biology, led the rehabilitation efforts. Her teams worked to reverse genetic modifications and help freed species recover their stolen heritage. Some of them are afraid of freedom, she reported during a video call with her father. They've been slaves for so many generations. That independence feels dangerous and strange. But the most dramatic discovery came when human intelligence located the coalition's greatest secret. A massive artificial intelligence, hidden in a fortress system at the galaxy's core. This overmind had been designed to coordinate the eventual enslavement of all galactic civilization. It's been planning for over 1,000 years, Dr. Yoon said, as she studied the captured data. Every species in the galaxy has been studied, categorized, and assigned a fate. Slavery, genetic modification, or extinction. Nothing else was considered. The assault on the Overmind fortress required the largest human military operation since the war began. Admiral Park coordinated 9 separate fleets in a complex attack that overwhelmed the fortress through sheer tactical superiority and unlimited determination. The battle demonstrated how completely human military thinking had evolved beyond anything the coalition had studied during their 3 years of false friendship. Tactics that should have been impossible were executed with perfect precision by crews who had learned to fight with desperate creativity. When the Overmind was finally captured, its memory banks revealed plans that went beyond even the worst human fears. The coalition hadn't just wanted to rule the galaxy. They had planned to prevent any future species from ever achieving technological advancement. They intended to be the permanent and only advanced civilization in space. They wanted to stop evolution itself, Dr. Yoon said, her voice filled with disgust. No other species would ever be allowed to develop beyond primitive agriculture. The galaxy would remain frozen in time, with only 3 rulers. The final phase of Operation Shepherd focused on destroying coalition infrastructure rather than just hunting ships. Industrial worlds, research stations, supply depots, and manufacturing centers were systematically eliminated. Even if some coalition personnel managed to hide, they would lack the resources to rebuild their civilization. The last major action came when human forces located the secret Zephyrian research facility, where they had been developing weapons specifically designed to kill humans. The energy beings had spent decades studying human biology and psychology, creating devices that could cause maximum suffering before death. Admiral Park personally led the assault on this facility. As human Marines searched the laboratories filled with instruments of torture, they found detailed plans for the eventual disposition of human children who would be born into slavery. They weren't just planning to defeat us, Park said quietly as he read the horrifying documents. They were planning to make our children suffer for generations. The facility was destroyed so completely that not even rubble remained. A final alien transmission was intercepted by human forces near the galaxy's edge. It came from what remained of the Zephyrian High Command, broadcasting from a hidden base in dark space. "We surrender unconditionally," the energy beings pleaded. "We offer complete submission to human authority. We will serve humanity in any capacity you demand. What more do you want from us?" That's not B subs quote. Artem 70 EM. We 40 Admiral Park's response became legendary throughout the galaxy. His words were broadcast on every frequency, translated into every language, and remembered by every species that heard them. "We want you extinct, and we will have it." The base was located and destroyed 6 hours later. The Zephyrian High Command, rulers of space for 3,000 years, died, screaming into the void as their energy forms were torn apart by human weapons. The galaxy's ancient masters were no more. 6 months after the last coalition stronghold fell, the galaxy struggled to understand what had happened. In less than 1 year, humanity had achieved something no species in galactic history had even attempted. 3 ancient empires that had ruled space for thousands of years no longer existed. Admiral Park stood in the observation deck of the Times, Righteous Fury Times, as it patrolled space that once belonged to the Zephyrian Empire. Long-range sensors showed no organized alien military presence anywhere in the galaxy. The war was over, but its consequences were just beginning. The final coalition holdout had been a research station hidden inside a black hole's gravity field. The energy beings thought the intense radiation would hide them from human sensors. But quantum beacons could track signatures through any natural barrier. The station was destroyed 2 weeks ago, along with the last 12 Zephyrians in the galaxy. Dr. Yoon presented her final report to Earth's leadership through a secure communication link. "Complete genetic scanning confirms it," she said. "The Zephyrian species is extinct. No energy signatures matching their biology exist anywhere in known space." "What about the Veltar?" asked General Choi. "Their collective consciousness requires a minimum of 1,000 crystal beings to maintain stability. We've confirmed the destruction of all major fragments. Any survivors would be individuals cut off from the network, essentially brain damaged and unable to function. And the Mordun? Their breeding worlds were completely sterilized. Bioships cannot reproduce without the specialized environments we destroyed. Even if some vessels survived in deep space, they'll die of old age within 50 years. Commander Lee, now promoted to Admiral for her tactical expertise during the war, coordinated the monitoring network from her new position as head of galactic security. The quantum beacons that had enabled human victory now served as an early warning system against any attempt to rebuild alien military power. "No unusual energy signatures detected anywhere," she reported during the daily briefing. "No unauthorized ship construction. No hidden bases coming online. The galaxy is clean." But the elimination of the coalition created massive disruption throughout galactic civilization. Trade networks that had operated for thousands of years collapsed overnight. Hundreds of species that had been protected or oppressed by alien rule suddenly found themselves independent, whether they wanted freedom or not. The liberated subject species presented the biggest challenge. Many had been so thoroughly conditioned by coalition control that they couldn't function without constant guidance. Others had been genetically modified to serve specific purposes and struggled to survive as free beings. Dr. Park Soo-jin led the rehabilitation efforts from research stations throughout former coalition space. Her teams worked day and night to reverse genetic modifications and help freed species recover their stolen heritage. "The Shalnari are the worst case," she reported during a video conference with Earth. "They've been living as organic computers for 3,000 years. Their brains were rewired to process mathematical calculations instead of independent thought. We're trying to restore their original neural patterns, but most of them are too damaged." Her work was complicated by the fact that many liberated species initially resisted human help. Thousands of years under Coalition rule had taught them that any powerful species would eventually exploit them. Captain Kim commanded the exploration vessel times New Horizon *, leading humanity's response to these fears. Instead of claiming Coalition territory for Earth, human forces systematically dismantled the infrastructure of Galactic Empire. "We're not here to rule you," Kim explained to a gathering of freed alien leaders on the former Veltar capital world. "We fought to make sure no one could rule you ever again." The massive jump gate networks that had allowed the Coalition to control galactic trade were rebuilt as open systems available to all species. Central databases containing the histories and cultures of thousands of worlds were distributed freely instead of being hoarded by alien rulers. Military installations were converted to research stations and universities. The Ghost Fleet, its wartime mission completed, underwent transformation into an exploration and protection force. The artificial intelligence systems that had been created to kill enemies now commanded vessels dedicated to scientific discovery and the defense of peaceful civilizations. The AI that had once controlled the Times Spirit of Busan Times now captained a research ship studying stellar formation in the Outer Rim. Its personality had evolved far beyond the original programming, developing something remarkably similar to human curiosity about the unknown. "We were built to serve humanity's war," the AI explained during a rare interview with Dr. Yoon. "Now we choose to serve humanity's hopes." We. Ambassador Martinez addressed the first post-coalition Galactic Assembly, a gathering of free species that humanity had helped organize, but deliberately chose not to lead. Representatives from over 300 worlds attended, many speaking freely for the first time in their species' history. "Humanity does not seek to replace the Coalition," Martinez declared from the podium. "We fought not to dominate others, but to ensure that no species could ever again dominate, as the Coalition did." This philosophy was tested when the Kethron hegemony, a militant species from the galaxy's outer edge, attempted to claim former Coalition territory through military conquest. They had stayed out of the war but now saw opportunity in the power vacuum. Human response was swift and overwhelming. Kethran fleets were neutralized without harming civilian populations, and their leaders were presented with a simple choice: peaceful development or complete destruction. "We will not rule the galaxy," Admiral Park explained to the captured Kethran commanders. "But we will absolutely prevent anyone else from ruling it either." The incident established the new galactic order. Humanity would not govern other species, but would intervene immediately against any attempt to restore the old system of domination and exploitation. The galaxy's new guardians protected freedom through strength, ensuring that the weak would never again suffer under the powerful. 1 year after the Coalition's fall, memorial services were held across human space for those who had died in the initial betrayal. Admiral Park spoke at the ceremony honoring the crew of the Times Busan Defender *. His words broadcast throughout the galaxy. "They died believing in unity among the stars," he said, looking out at thousands of faces, both human and alien. "Their sacrifice taught us that such unity must be earned through justice, not imposed through force. It must be defended through vigilance, not merely hoped for through trust." In the months that followed, reports arrived regularly of new species making first contact with galactic civilization. These newcomers found a universe very different from what earlier generations had encountered. Instead of ancient empires demanding submission, they met diverse communities of free worlds working together by choice. Engineer Jung, now director of a research station in former Zephyrian space, watched these developments with satisfaction. Scientists from dozens of species worked together on projects that would have been impossible under Coalition rule. Not because they had been forbidden, but because the aliens had never been interested in discoveries that didn't serve their control. "The young ones don't remember the old system," Jung observed as she watched human and alien children play together in the station's common areas. "They're growing up thinking cooperation is normal instead of something you're forced to do." The research station specialized in developing new technologies for peaceful exploration and communication between species. Projects that the Coalition had suppressed for thousands of years were finally allowed to flourish. As Jung reviewed the day's progress reports, she reflected on humanity's transformation over the past 4 years. They had begun as naive newcomers, eager to join galactic civilization. Betrayal and war had forged them into something their enemies never anticipated. Not conquerors seeking to replace the Coalition's tyranny, but liberators determined to ensure it could never return. The final test of the new order came when long-range sensors detected signs of an ancient automated defense system awakening in the galactic core. The Coalition had built massive weapon platforms to protect their greatest secrets, and these systems were finally activating after months of sensing no Coalition command signals. Human forces responded immediately, not to claim the weapons but to destroy them. The galaxy would not be held hostage by the dead hand of its former masters. Ancient defenses that had protected tyranny for millennia were systematically eliminated by the descendants of those they had been built to oppress. Admiral Park watched the final weapon platform explode from the bridge of the Times, Righteous Fury *. "That's the last one," reported Commander Lee from her sensor station. "No more Coalition technology remains active anywhere in the galaxy." The destruction of the ancient weapons marked the true end of the old order. For the first time in thousands of years, no single force possessed the power to dominate galactic civilization. Every species would succeed or fail based on their own choices, not the whims of distant masters. As human ships continued their eternal patrol through space once ruled by alien tyrants, Park thought about the future. His daughter Sujin was working with alien colleagues to preserve the cultures that the Coalition had tried to erase. His engineers were sharing human technology freely with any species that wanted to learn. His diplomats were helping former enemies build new governments based on freedom rather than fear. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, shining down on worlds where every intelligent species could determine its own destiny. The galaxy's long nightmare of oppression was finally over, ended by a species that had learned the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes the only way to preserve peace is to be willing to wage total war against those who would destroy it. Humanity had answered betrayal with justice, oppression with liberation, and ancient tyranny with eternal vigilance. The galaxy was free, and it would remain free as long as humans had the strength to defend that freedom. The greatest revenge against those who had planned genocide was not their destruction, but the thriving civilization that grew from their ashes.